New Japan Pro Wrestling runs their Resurgence show from the Toch at LA Coliseum this weekend. The show marks the first major event since launching their U.S. brand. Resurgence is headlined by a double main event, Lance Archer versus Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jay White versus David Finlay. Both of those are title matches. My name is Ryan Joy, and I run MinutesToBellTime.com, website and database tracking pro wrestling around the world. On today's show, we're talking about Resurgence. We'll give you our thoughts on the matches and on the overall card. We also have headlines in the last 24 hours. Travis Severance is in the house, and this is the Daily Wrestling News Show for August 10th, 2021, where we sort through all the bullshit in wrestling news to find you the truth. All right. Good morning, Travis. Welcome to the Daily Wrestling News Show.
Thanks. It's great to be here, as always, on this beautiful Tuesday morning here in gloomy, overcast skies, Rochester, New York.
I see blue skies, a little cloud coverage here on the Treasure Coast. But
your geography is a little different than mine.
So that's fair. All right. Well, the news that we're covering this morning is New Japan Pro Wrestling's Resurgence show this weekend in Los Angeles. It's at the Toch at LA Coliseum. When I checked this morning, there were exactly 4 tickets available for sale on Ticketmaster. The show will also be available on New Japan World with Japanese commentary, or for $19.99 on Fight TV with English commentary. So
what a deal!
What a deal! So if you've paid your 999 yen this month for the New Japan World subscription, you can go ahead and watch it with Japanese commentary. So
I'm going to do it.
Yes. All right. Well, so far we have 7 matches announced. There might be one more match, and they have a dark match that they're definitely going to do. But the main event of the show is Lance Archer versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. They're calling it a double main event because they got Jay White and David Finlay on there as well. But Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tomohiro Ishii, those are the names that are coming across the pond from Japan to participate in the show. Let's start with Archer and Tanahashi. They have wrestled 3 times before, and Tanahashi has won all 3 matches.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy to me. The last time I remember them wrestling G1 2019. Am I right on that? I think they were in Group B.
Most likely.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of not surprising to me so much that Tanahashi's gone over Archer 3 times. Archer was in New Japan, he was kind of just this thuggish character the last couple of years there that just came out, and he was like the big American annoying guy, and usually the better Japanese wrestlers would get over on him, and that's just kind of how it went. I don't see that happening here again. Like every time we see this United States title or this belt, no Japanese wrestlers have held it yet. And I don't think it's going to Tanahashi here. It's always been held, the entire history of it, which isn't long or anything, but it's been held by some great wrestlers, is always an English-speaking wrestler. I don't know. It would be a big surprise for me to see that, especially after him winning it from Mox after so long in a pretty grueling match. So main event, yeah, I think given this card and given the travel limitations and some of the stuff going back and forth and different things like that, like, I don't know. This show is curious to me. Resurgence. Okay, great. What are we surging to? Like,
right, what do we go to from here?
Is this like I know you'll get into it, but the card is spackled with New Japan strong talent that we've seen if you've paid attention to it, which I don't know how many views they're getting over there, but it's at a kind of a weird time. It's after SmackDown Friday nights when they have it, and there's great wrestling there, but the storytelling isn't there, and it's kind of a B or a C show, I guess I would call it. It's not as good as Impact, but I would put it in line with like a short card MLW, I guess, as far as what it goes. The in-ring work is great, but there's not a lot of character there. And they haven't injected much of that too. And I don't know. I don't love the other side of the commentary team over there either. I don't think it.
Alex, well, they are bringing in Aiden English for this. I mean,
which is
Matthew
great.
Ray won't. Yeah, he'll be
working, I think, with Kevin Kelly on this show.
Hopefully. Kevin's
But-
a big anchor over there.
Yeah, I won't know because I'll be listening to the Japanese commentary.
Yeah, we'll hear from like Jushin Liger or whoever they end up having on the, which is weird to me too, right? We've only got 2 Japanese wrestlers announced in the card. Like typically the New Japan shows, they have plexiglass up and there's the, you know, the Japanese commentary team, which usually halfway through the show or during the break, they sub out some people and we get a whole new thing. And then the English commentary team is sort of next to them. So like, is it going to be the Japanese commentaries? Are they going to be live there, or is that going to be? Are they going to be dealing with what the English commentary team has had to deal with throughout this pandemic thing with the reversal? Like, I don't know. It's interesting to see how that goes. I will miss Chris Carlton, Rocky Romero, Gino Gambino, and you know the rest of my favorites over there that I really enjoy. So we'll see. I wish there was and maybe there's gonna be some sort of a payoff or some sort of a story that comes out of this somewheres here. I mean, for me, hopefully it's Tanahashi getting over on AEW programming. I think he would be a good get, and like I'd love to see Ishii go over and do the same thing on Impact. So maybe this is sort of a precursor to do with, you know, a trilogy match or something to that effect with these guys.
So this as a main event, you were talking about this. I kind it's okay. It's not a really interesting main event where I think it would lead to tons and tons of pay-per-view buys because Archer and Tanahashi, Archer is a monster and he's on a roll and he just won the title. Tanahashi he's the older guy, right? Like he is a huge star. He's a huge Japanese star. There's no question there. Anytime they want to like revitalize him, they can pull the whole angle out of does he have one more run in him and he can go and he can do it and that's fine and he'll be accepted in that role. But he's not going to beat Lance Archer here. Like I mean, they're not going to turn Hiroshi Tanahashi heel either, so it's not like there's going to be some big swerve there. So they just bringing over a big star to wrestle on the card. I kind of think this should have been flipped and the Jay White versus David Finlay match maybe should have main evented. Tanahashi's the bigger star, I guess, when you look at the history of New Japan, when you look at it from over there, that side. Yep. Jay White's a huge star, though, and his star is still rising, whereas Tanahashi is not still rising. It's kind of on its way down. So you could do the Jay White versus David Finlay match as the main. This is interesting. An ever openweight championship match, Jay White and Finlay. You calling for a change or no? I know Jay White's your guy, but man, they've been building this David Finlay match since the New Japan Cup.
So the problem with Jay White is he doesn't have long title reigns because he's such a good heel.
Right.
And he's so good with it. And he's the opposite heel that you normally see. A lot of times heels need a belt so the face can chase. He doesn't need a belt. He's just obnoxious and he's kind of all over the place. And like, it's been interesting to see his work on Impact because my gosh,
he's a face.
he's a face on that show. And boy, do they have to pack a lunch when he's on the promo mic. Man, he just obliterated Callis and Omega and the rest of the gang the first night he came out. And like, up your game a little bit, guys, over there. Like, I know you're all over the place and stuff like that, but Jay kind of sliced you up pretty good there. So it's a curious match. I mean, the thing about the Jay Cup was, you know, Jay White talked about the fact that he was 16-1 against David Finlay all time, which their first year, both of them in New Japan they were against each other a lot, and Jay White killed him a bunch of times. So maybe this is like the David Finlay comeuppance, and we're going to see this happen. It could happen. Obviously, like, if they're going to try to pay off a title change for the show for the importance and the relevance of why you need to tune in and you're going to see a switch, I think this is more likely to happen than what we were talking about before. Which again, I think that for me, as somebody that's a viewer and not a producer, I would have thought the same thing. It would have been more interesting to me if the title change match was the main, because I just think that's more interesting than a retention. Now, we'll see what happens. Maybe it's going to be retention on Archer and somebody's going to come in and there's going to be some sort of an interference or something like that. So maybe that's where they're going to go. But as far as like the two matches go, I think the Finlay White match should be a better match in general. They've obviously danced with each other a bunch of times. It's not identical styles, but it's similar styles. This, I think, would be Finlay's first New Japan title too, and he's been around. He came in when Jay did, so
Yeah.
I don't think he's had a tag belt. I don't think Finjuiced ever carried the belts when they
did.
were over there. Did they
They
have it?
traded
Okay.
him with the Gorillas of Destiny.
Well, God. Okay.
Yeah.
So he has had a belt, but this is his first singles thing, and it's kind of him sawed away from Juice and stuff. And yeah, it's been going on for a while now, but New Japan has been so weird because of the show cancellations and the stretching this out, and they had some COVID stuff, and people had to be off the card, and Ibushi wasn't in the main, and like all this other stuff that they've been dealing with, internally and externally over there. It's like, I don't know, like even when I look at the show, like when it was initially announced, I was like, this is going to be great. Let's see what they decide to do. And now it feels like they're sort of just cobbling things together to get it over the finish line so that they can figure out what else they're going to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Resurgence that we were talking about, they announced a couple of dates that they're going to actually tour. So they're going to Philadelphia and they're going to Texas this year. So this is all about the expansion into the Americas for New Japan. This whole strong brand was announced in 2019 and was supposed to be them really making their efforts and their inroads in the United States. Well, that pandemic came and it just kind of crushed everything, and they really weren't able to make a good go of it. And then, when you look at this card, it's like you said, they're borrowing some talents from other places because, that's kind of what they need to do. And there's really there's star power on it, but it's in the top 3 matches, and most of it's borrowed, borrowed talent. So
yeah,
they're bringing Tomohiro Ishii over to face Moose. They're borrowing from Impact. I haven't seen Moose on New Japan like much at all ever. So he's kind of getting thrown in there to face Ishii. And
yeah, I'm curious. It's a curious match. I'm interested in that match. Ishii's style is very much strong style, and Moose Ishii, if you haven't seen him before, his moniker is Stone Pitbull because the guy's built like a brick, but he's short, and Moose is a giant former football player monster. So it's going to be an interesting clash of styles, I think, in that match in general. I'm wondering if this was part of the Forbidden Door trading. Like they just, okay, you get Moose. We're going to put Moose on one of our pay-per-views. You guys will get a little bit of exposure. We'll get a little bit of exposure. I mean, like Jordan Grace's comments about the Forbidden Door stuff from a couple of days ago were pretty pointed, I guess, is the way that I would say it. But she's spot on. Like New Japan, you don't see any women's wrestling at all, so we won't be getting that on this card.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeff Johnson chiming in asking, are they actually building stories with some of the borrowed talent? And yes, with Archer and stuff like that. But the thing about New Japan is most of the storytelling happens in the ring. Mm-hmm. And you see like a little angle or something. You don't have like the walking out to the middle of the ring with the microphone and start the show and middle of the show and end of the show with promo segments like that. There's none of that. Usually they have a card and you might have one promo after the final match that kind of sets up an angle. So I would expect at the end of this show, you're going to have Lance Archer or Tanahashi, but most likely Lance Archer standing in the middle of the ring saying something with a microphone, and out will come his next challenger, and that'll be the big surprise that pushes the whole brand forward. But going back to Ishii and Moose, if they're borrowing Moose for one show, he's not gonna lose. So
nope.
And then the other big match, 10-man tag. You've got Lio Rush, Brody King, Chris Dickinson, and Fred Yehai. And Yuya Uemura making his stateside debut. Butchered his name. Yuya Uemura versus Tom Lawler, J.R. Kratos, Danny Limelight, Jarrell Nelson, and Royce Isaacs. So there's some interesting characters in this match, and there's some not so interesting characters in this match. One thing people might notice right away, Lio Rush.
I thought he was retired.
That when he was healthy, he had some dates he had to fulfill with New Japan. So one of the things that you think they might build for this is one of the last times you might see Lio Rush. Maybe tune in to buy the show.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I think just to speak to what you're saying on that match in general, I think if you carve that matchup and you just took the interesting rather than the whole of it, I think we'd be in better shape on this match. You could have made it a 3-3.
You could have seen Tom Lawler versus Lio Rush for the Strong Championship, or Lawler versus Brew. Any one of those.
Would have been a great thing to have them defend the Strong title on. You could talk about the Strong brand there. I'm sure they will, but it's a title match.
And maybe maybe this will set up the next match or whatever. Yeah. So
I mean, maybe the Tom Lawler Lio Rush match isn't overly compelling because we know he's only going to work limited dates, but it's still going to be a good match.
Yeah. So Jon Moxley and a mystery partner versus the Good Brothers. That's actually on the undercard. Mm-hmm. So it kind of makes me wonder if that mystery partner is going to be interesting at all. But like we said, I think last week, Shota Umino seems to be the guy that's in my head. I just don't know if that's like surprise worthy.
It's not. And we were talking about our concern with their surprises at times. So
yes,
could it be Sami Callihan or Eddie Kingston or something like that? Sure. I think that's more interesting probably. Moxley being the only real AEW talent on the show.
Maybe it's okay. So that match is the third match. Before that, we got a 6-man tag: Rocky Romero, Fred Rosser, Wheeler Yuta versus Ren Narita, Clark Connors, and TJP. And then the opener is Alex Coughlin versus Carl Fredericks. So those matches, not a lot at stake there in those earlier matches. So this Moxley match is the first one that's like that kind of gets the show going.
Yep.
They might want to reconsider and open with that so that you have something like to start, to kick the show off.
Yeah, give me a hot start.
Yeah. But anyway, there's 4 tickets left if you want to go see the show. I hate to sound down on the show because it's exciting that this is sort of like the launch of the Strong brand. Maybe there'll be some hot angles in here or something like that. But it's, I'm a little annoyed about the Japanese commentary thing and not being able to get English commentary. And I'm just a little down on the card.
Yeah, I mean, the card's just not super exciting for me as far as like this is going to be their North American exposure thing. I think the wrestling is going to be absolutely fine. You're going to see brilliant wrestling. You're going to see good matches. Like the booking is always quality, and they will tell good stories in the ring. I just don't think it's as energetic as it could be for a sold out LA Coliseum. I mean, it's sold out. So apparently there's plenty of people out there that want to see the show because that place isn't small.
It's the Torch though. So it's like,
it's their adjunct building or whatever. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well,
still they sold out at high price tickets. Going to see New Japan, even in the United States, is not like going to see your local promotion. Right. They're going to charge you a lot of money to get in the door. Mm-hmm. And so they did. And there's only 4 tickets left. So
get them now.
They made their money there, but we'll see how many people pay the $19.99 on Fight. All right, let's move on. We have one new match for SummerSlam. SummerSlam announced Sheamus versus Damian Priest for the United States Championship. That will be on SummerSlam. It joins the 6 previously announced matches. So we have what I'm going to assume is the majority of the card now. So Travis, I'll run down through the card. You tell me the match you're excited for. Sheamus versus Damian Priest for the United States Championship. The Usos versus the Mysterios for the SmackDown Tag Championships. Goldberg versus Lashley for the WWE Championship. Nikki Ash versus Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the Raw Championship. Edge versus Seth Rollins. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. And Roman Reigns versus John Cena for the Universal Championship.
Given that lineup, I think my most anticipated match as far as like a quality or what could happen is probably surprisingly Seth Rollins versus Edge.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is the winner of that feud. I'm not sure if it's going to be a one-match feud or a multi-match feud, but the winner of that's probably going to wrestle Roman Reigns. Whether that stretches out until Royal Rumble season, or if that's like the December pay-per-view, or maybe it's the October pay-per-view. I don't know what their plans are there, I guess, but one of those 2 guys is going to be wrestling Roman Reigns next, maybe both of them. So, but if you want our thoughts, specifically Travis's and the rest of the EWP crew's thoughts on all of the SummerSlam matches as we get closer. The Essential Wrestling Podcast will have the SummerSlam special on Saturday, August 21st, right before SummerSlam at 3 p.m. So you can find out who they all think is going to win the matches that night. And we'll share some stories about SummerSlams gone by and things like that. So that'll be a really fun show for people to tune into directly before we get to SummerSlam. But I don't know. I'm sort of interested in Roman Reigns versus John Cena in the sense that I'm not sure if John Cena is going to stick around for a little bit longer afterwards. How was Finn Balor's engagement with that match? Because that's been kind of the story on SmackDown. I have some interest in that match. Other than that, I think I might be most interested in the match that hasn't been announced yet, and is it going to be Matt Riddle and Randy Orton versus AJ Styles and Omos, or is it going to be Matt Riddle versus Randy Orton for custody of the RKO? I don't know. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. That was my biggest surprise coming out of Raw last night.
Yeah, well, that, and we'll get to that in a second. So we'll talk about Raw briefly right after the commercial break. So stick with us.
Commercials, dog with paper in their mouth.
There you go. If you love the Daily Wrestling News Show, then I want to tell you how you can support us. First, check out bodyslamclothes.com. You can get a variety of shirts for just $20, and all of them come in the super soft style, and the price you see includes all sizes and shipping. Get 10% off 2 or more shirts with the promo code SHIRTS10. Go to bodyslamclothes.com right now to check it out. And join Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca on Monday nights for the Primetime Rundown. They take you through the world of sports, and the show kicks off each Monday at 7 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And each Tuesday, Al Carl hosts the Essential Wrestling Podcast alongside John Smith, myself, John DeConnie, and Gary Mahaffey. It's another week of updates and highlights in the world of wrestling. Here are our analysis on who we think is going to win the week's matches. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And Pro Wrestling Pick'em. It's a place where you can join or host a Pick'em League to test your predictive skills in the world of pro wrestling. Create an account and join a league now at ProWrestlingPick'em.com so you can play against your friends or play against the universe. And the Body Slam Brigade newsletter, currently going out to over 4,200 people each Friday. It consolidates all the top stories in professional wrestling into a quick-to-read email written by me for you for free. Sign up now at bodyslambrigade.com. And of course, this show, the Daily Wrestling News Show. We're here every day, Monday through Thursday, and occasionally on Friday. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or watch us live on Facebook and YouTube at 10 a.m. This is the Daily Wrestling News Show, and we thank you for your support. So that sound means we are in the headlines portion of the show, which Al has told me should probably be the beginning of the show, but that's here nor there.
He's got his own show.
There you go. So, Travis, you brought up Monday Night Raw. I know it's everybody's favorite show of the week, so let's go through the big highlights coming out of the show, one of which we already talked about. Randy Orton returned to the ring. He opened up Monday Night Raw. He closed Monday Night Raw as well. He wrestled AJ Styles in the main event. He won against AJ Styles in the main event, thanks to Riddle, who came down and got almost kind of distracted and whatnot, which allowed Randy Orton to get to the victory. But after the match, Randy wasn't really too pleased with that. Gave him an RKO for the road, and that's how Raw ended. So it left everybody wondering, is RK Bro dead? Are they going? I mean, the angle was with AJ and Omos, so are they going to come together for the one match and be done? Is it going to be SummerSlam, Randy Orton versus Matt Riddle? Don't know.
That's a real cliffhanger that they've got there. They built up the team. Riddle carried the thing. Randy hasn't been on TV since basically Mania. They're building towards this tag team feud thing. Omos and Styles have nobody in the background that they're potentially going to wrestle or have the belts taken off from them ever. And what we'll do is we'll split up RK Bro possibly, or maybe this RKO will actually unify Riddle and Orton more.
I'm pretty sure Matt Riddle's going to come back for more. He's going to be like, yeah, but Randy, why'd you do that, man? And they'll get back together. I'm almost positive.
We'll have to just wait and see, because The surprises are rolling here. What else happened?
Well, a lot of stuff happened throughout the night, but the only other headline that I'll give is that Elias threw his guitar in a fire. He said Elias is dead. WWE used to stand for a walk with Elias, but Elias is now dead. So I don't know if this means Elias is going to come back as a brand new character, or if Elias is going to get cut from WWE tomorrow, or what the story is. But apparently, after getting hit over the back with a cello a number of times, he no longer wants to participate in Symphony of Destruction matches. So the character is done.
Oh, no. I thought he was going to team up with Rick Boogs, was my ultimate hope.
That's probably why he had to give up the guitar, because
Rick's
you can only
already
have
got
one music guy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You only have one music guy.
You can't have the honky tonk man and the cello guy on the same show. That's just
right.
You're gimmicking yourself out.
There you go. Okay, so that's Monday Night Raw. Moving on. WWE main event this week has some interesting participants. Aaliyah will be on the show. Dakota Kai will be on the show. Odyssey Jones and Austin Theory. So a whole bunch of NXT people were at Monday Night Raw last night. Those are the two matches that are scheduled for main event. And Dakota Kai, who was also announced yesterday, Dakota Kai will be facing Raquel Gonzalez at TakeOver 35 on Sunday, August 22nd. She's wrestling on main event against Aaliyah, so it should be a slam dunk victory for Dakota Kai, except it wasn't. She lost. So Aaliyah got probably her first victory of all time against the person who was challenging for the NXT Championship at TakeOver 35. If it wasn't bad enough that Karrion Kross lost his matches to Jeff Hardy in 3 minutes on his debut, we're going to make sure that there's no momentum for Dakota Kai going in.
Nope. There's nothing going on. They're not killing the NXT brand or characters or any of that stuff. This is storytelling 101, brought to you by WWE main roster storytellers and producers.
In fairness,
nothing
nobody's
to worry about.
It's
agree, but you have essentially a ringside chair beating your women's championship challenger.
Yeah, I don't know what Aaliyah is destined for Monday Night Raw. We know she is being called up. That's why she did the whole break from the Robert Stone brand. So the mentality here has to be like, we know Aaliyah is going to be on Raw, so she's going to be the person we're focused on. We brought Dakota Kai in to give her a tryout or whatever for the main roster. She's going to lose here. Whatever. Doesn't matter. There's not consistency in storylines here. Aaliyah never won a match when she was in NXT, and now she's Now she's beating the top contender for the championship.
She was waiting for the opportunity.
Yeah. Odyssey Jones, he was on Raw. Odyssey Jones has to win this breakout tournament if he's the one that they're calling up to do these dark matches or the main event matches. So whatever. All right. So Major League Wrestling is going to be returning this fall. And when they do, they'll have more than one show. They're going to have two shows. One will be their longtime MLW Fusion show. And the second will be something under the Azteca Underground brand. So that'll be fun. That'll be interesting. Something new from MLW. And it makes sense with all the TV deals and stuff that they've been signing. And apparently there's a streaming deal that they haven't announced yet that we might have to buy another platform or something, or maybe it'll be on Peacock. I don't know, but
hopefully not.
Hopefully not on Peacock, but hopefully it's one of the other 388 streaming services I already own.
Azteca Underground affiliation is interesting to me. The stuff that I did watch from Lucha Underground was great. If they kind of follow some kind of a loose formatting of that, it's interesting in that if the focus of the show is mostly Lucha, you're bringing me a show that's at least different in the way that NWA Power is different because it's a studio show, and stylistically we're going to see a different thing from there. Hopefully, if they end up staying true to that sort of previous version of that brand.
Yeah. So we will stay tuned, I guess, and see what the announcements are. But two shows for MLW, joining the long list of companies that have multiple shows like WWE and AEW, who has Rampage debuts this week. So we'll talk about Rampage in just a second. Bobby Lashley is supposed to be the next guest on Steve Austin's Broken Skull Sessions. Now, this was advertised for this Saturday, and it's still advertised for this Saturday, but what I have observed over the last several times these things were advertised is that they're advertised for one day and then they don't end up airing, and then they airing the next week when they have pay-per-view to go with it. So I would imagine the Broken Skull sessions, well advertised for this Saturday, will actually be on SummerSlam Saturday.
Probably.
Just my thoughts there. Okay, tonight on NXT, we have Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly face-to-face. That'll be moderated by William Regal. Raquel Gonzalez breaks her silence. This is after Dakota Kai kicked her in the face last week. Ember Moon versus Saray, and Ilya Dragunov will be live on the show. This is the first time Dragunov has made it over from the UK. So this is ahead of his match against Walter at TakeOver 35. So that's tonight. Tomorrow, there's a big show for Dynamite. A lot of things advertised, but as Travis and I were kind of talking before the show, there's not like a marquee match here. Jericho versus Wardlow in the fourth labor of Jericho. Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander. Good Brothers versus Uno and Grayson. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus the Seidells and Dante Martin. Darby Allin versus Daniel Garcia. Wheeler Yuta, Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor versus Matt Hardy and Private Party. And then Christian Cage will be on the show. It sounds like he's trying to position himself for the championship match at All Out. Anything on there you want to talk about, Travis?
I mean, there's a whole lot of talent. There have been a number of times throughout the history of AEW where I've looked at a card and I thought to myself, boy, that's kind of a filler show. And they've ended up delivering. So that's how I'm going to hope that this show ends up coming off. And maybe it's just the back-to-back-to-back quasi pay-per-view vibe that we got for the last three shows and the big numbers, the announcements and things like that. I think part of the challenge for me on this one is that we have the expectation that a lot of new, fresh talent is going to be coming in for shows soon. And it feels like they're just kind of getting up to that stage right now. So maybe they're in kind of some kind of a holding pattern right now to kind of, not really lighting stories on fire or anything like that, but just finishing off some stuff here and there to start fresh.
Well, All Out is less than a month away, and we don't have anything scheduled for that. Now you have on this show, you have Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus the Seidells and Dante Martin. It's possible, I guess, that Matt or Mike Seidel could get a pin over one of the Young Bucks to set up a match at All Out. But that's not particularly interesting. But I don't know who the Young Bucks will face anyway. And then you've got this six-man tag with Yuta, Cassidy, Taylor versus Matt Hardy and Private Party. Matt Hardy and Private Party and the whole Hardy family office have been kind of all over the place, wrestling with Christian and Jurassic Express and the Best Friends. So I'm not really sure where they're going to go out of this whole thing, if they're going to be set up for some massive match at All Out. Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander is curious. Like, is that going to be a match that sets up a championship match for Britt Baker? The smart money, I don't know if it's smart money, but a lot of people think Thunder Rosa is kind of the person for Britt Baker at All Out. But maybe it's going to be Chris Statlander. It's not going to be Nyla Rose. She just wrestled Britt Baker. So
yeah, this should be probably a Statlander win, I assume, here.
And then Daniel Garcia, he called out Darby Allin last week, and he's getting the match. So there you go.
I'm surprised with all the talent that they have. Daniel Garcia 2 weeks in a row is on TV for them, as he's definitely not a signed talent. I mean, he's a Buffalo guy. I love him. He's great work. He's all over the place now. That'll probably steal the show if I had to guess, because those guys just work really well together in the ring.
And he'll be out there with 2.0, which is Everrise.
Sure.
So
yeah, Everrise, and I'm sure Darby will have maybe Sting or something.
Now there should be some angles on this show too, because Rampage is on Friday. It's the debut episode of Rampage, and all we have so far is Britt Baker versus Red Velvet, which is good. It's a title match and everything, but it's not enough to get people to go watch Rampage on Friday night at 10 o'clock. So I'm really with you on that. I think this is the setup show for Rampage. Hey, we've got this one match with it's Britt Baker in her hometown wrestling. Like, here's some more reasons why you need to tune in on Friday. I mean, there's no way they want to go their first week with Rampage and have it be a stinker. I'm surprised that the card is this lacking, but again, I don't know really what the format's going to be either. I don't know how they're going to do that show. It's a completely different commentary team. Oh my God, 4 people in the booth.
4-man
Jericho,
booth with
Mark
Taz.
Henry,
Mark
Taz,
Henry.
and
And
Excalibur.
Excalibur to hold it down. Like,
I think this is going to be. I think that's going to be changed after week 1. I cannot imagine Mark Henry in a position where he's trying to establish himself as a commentary. Meanwhile, Chris Jericho's in the booth, who doesn't let anybody get a word in edgewise.
And Taz, who's just going to say random stuff. So, like, I'm almost on board just for the train wreck that is going to be trying to call that show. That just seems like a disaster.
Now, you know what? I have to go back and look. Did they announce that as the commentary team or the announce team? Because if they announced it,
that's a good point.
Maybe one of those guys is going to be doing interview segments or whatever.
Yeah, it could be that.
But
that's a full booth. Well, you put Chris Jericho in a booth, it's a full booth.
Yeah, Chris Jericho. I mean, I've enjoyed it when he's on commentary. I'm not trying to say that he's not good at the job. It's just that he's a full personality, and I can't imagine Mark Henry, who's a little bit of a softer spoken individual, to try to get his commentary feet wet. And with Jericho there in the booth, yeah.
I mean, maybe the plan is to have it that way so that Mark doesn't have as much pressure to say stuff. You know, they're kind of just trying to get him seasoned a little bit. So I don't know. It's interesting. There's the other side of it too. It's a 2-hour show?
No, it's
a 1-hour show. Okay, so they're not doing like the WCW thing, which WCW used to have 2 commentators for the first hour and 2 commentators for the second hour.
Yeah,
kind of make it feel like it was 2 separate things and it was special during the break. So that's definitely not happening.
Unless it does, because halfway through the show to hit that Judas music and get the crowd going.
Maybe.
I can see that. I can see that. All right. Well, finally, before we leave for the day, we have Triple Manias this weekend, which is AAA's great big show. Omega versus Andrade is not the main event, but it is for the Mega Championship. The main event is actually Psycho Clown versus Rey Scorpion in a mask versus hair match. We also have Deonna Purrazzo versus Fabi Apache, title for title, earlier in the night. So the Impact Championship's on the line here against the Knockouts Championship is on the line against the Reyes to Reyes Championship. So should be fun, but as far as I know, there's no possible way for you to watch it if you live in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm sure we'll see some highlights someplace, and maybe
their Instagram will be full. And usually they really do the really cool, the comic book character shows the night afterwards, which is a lot of fun because people dress in the costumes and stuff like that, and that's always cool to see.
All right, Travis. Anything else that we left off you want to talk about?
Okay. Nope.
All right, well, everybody, for Travis, I'm Ryan. We'll see you tomorrow. John Smith will be on the show to talk about whatever comes out of NXT tonight.